This is a little bit disturbing. This is New York Times media reporter Kevin Roos. And he has some interesting facts on what is going on with Facebook. You know, we talk about the alternate media, I guess, universes that people have. On Facebook, the right is doing very well. Here he is on CNN. Let's play this clip.
Well, what have you found, Kevin, on Facebook recently?
Well, I've been looking closely at Facebook data for the past several years, and in the past few months, it's amazing how dominant the Facebook sort of right wing has become, the pro-Trump part of Facebook. And I pulled a bunch of numbers on this that are in a column I wrote this week about what if Facebook is the silent majority that Trump has been talking about. And it's amazing how little we, the people who sort of work in the mainstream media, don't understand about what's going on Facebook. It's a completely parallel universe in which, you know, the Trump's response to COVID-19 has been fast and effective, in which these riots in Portland and other cities are the biggest news story in the world, in which these sort of culture war controversies become much bigger than anything that happened at the RNC or the DNC, frankly. I just think we have very little sense of what's happening there. And so I wanted to dive in and investigate it. And I was kind of shocked by what I found.
Just to give you a sense of some of the stuff he found, in August, Facebook interactions, CNN had 21 million interactions. This isn't the same necessarily as views and whatnot, but it is a metric. August Facebook interactions, CNN had 21 million. The New York Times had 8 million. Ben Shapiro had 55 million. The August Facebook video views, CNN had 73 million. New York Times had 12 million. The Hodge twins had 84 million. Matt, do you know who the Hodge twins are?
No, I don't.
I was going to say, I don't even know who that is.
I mean, that's amazing, though, isn't it? You've got these right wingers out there. We don't even know who they are, and they've got 84 million. They're getting 11 million more views than CNN.
And maybe Matt Binder knows.
I bet you he does. The August Facebook shares, CNN, 2.2 million. New York Times, not even a million, 800,000. Dan Bongino, the guy famous for, what did he do? He didn't, that Vic Berger depiction of him pretending that he drank his own urine. Dan Bongino, 5.6 million views. Now, I would bet you anything that this is a function of, you know, manipulating the system, that they are willing to spend a tremendous amount of money in advertising, burn that money, loss leader in their mind, as a way of driving those numbers. We have nothing equivalent on the left to anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, part of how Facebook is killing the media business is by the media became very dependent on Facebook for a majority of its traffic. And then Facebook had the power to take that traffic away and then ransom it back to them for a price.
Yep.
And obviously that favors the outlets with more money.
There was this Wired article.
And we should say not even outlets with more money. Outlets that have money that they don't have to recoup because they are financed with an ideology, and their metric of success is not how profitable it is. Their metric of success is how far the reach is. Mm-hmm. And that's certainly a leg up.
There was this story I like to remind people about, 15 months of fresh hell inside Facebook on Wired. And there's this paragraph here. Some of the company's most senior execs, notably Chris Cox, agreed that Facebook needed to give serious publishers a leg up. Other publishers, especially Joel Kaplan, a former deputy chief of staff to George W. Bush, who is now Facebook's vice president of global public policy. Supporting high-quality outlets would inevitably make it look like the platform was supporting liberals, which could lead to trouble in Washington, a town mainly run by conservatives. Breitbart and the Daily Caller, Kaplan argued, deserved protections too. At the end of the climactic meeting on July 9th, Zuckerberg sided with Kaplan and announced that he was tabling the discussion about adding ways to boost publishers, effectively killing the plan. The one person involved in the meeting, it seemed like a sign of shifting power. There you go. Kaplan wasn't he on Kavanaugh's team?
Yes. Yeah, I think he was. I mean, that's the point, is that you have a massive, just in the same way that Amazon wants not just to be a market, but be the market, Facebook also wants to be the market in terms of information, and they don't care what goes through there other than they don't care what information pulses through there, as long as there's information, and they are uninhibited from monetizing it. So it just so happens the right is in power, then it is the right that they will kowtow to. And that's what we've got. And then you have, let's play this clip. This is Ben Shapiro, who had the highest number of impressions, significantly larger than CNN, significantly larger than the New York Times.
I bet it's all boomers too.
Who it very well could be. I mean, I don't know. Facebook, I don't know. I mean, Facebook is, I would imagine, that's who, that's the primary. It's certainly not, 15-year-olds, but I don't know if it's all boomers. I don't know. But regardless, if if boomers are still getting, Ben Shapiro's getting 55 Facebook interactions, CNN and the New York Times don't even have 30 million between the two of them, then that's a problem. Here's Ben Shapiro. This is an example of some of the stuff that that people are considering news on Facebook.
We do have to ask the question here, why is this happening? And the answer as to why this is happening is because Governor Tony Evers, who's a horrible governor, decided he was not going to call in the National Guard sufficient to quash the rioting and the looting and the violence. Because in the view of so many Democratic mayors and governors of cities, they've decided that it's worthwhile to give people space to let things burn, in the famous words of the former Baltimore mayor during the Baltimore riots in 2014, 2015. Remember, the mayor of Baltimore said we needed to give them space to burn. Okay, this has been the perspective for many Democrats. In the city of Los Angeles, where I live, Eric Garcetti shut down the entire city for a week running at 7 p.m. to give people space to loot and burn. If you don't want this to happen, there's a very easy way to stop it, and that is you call in the National Guard and you stop it dead. You stop it cold. When that doesn't happen, you know what happens? People start to defend other people's property. People start to move in, and they start to confront people who are committing acts of violence and looting. In fact, the single best example of how violence in communities rises when you remove
this idea that other people come in to protect other people's property. Is that what's really going on here? There's no ideological basis for these other people to come in. They're just coming in because they're good neighbors, and they just happen to have their AR-15. I'm going to go in and I'm going to protect this mom and pop store I've never even been in. No, that's not what's happening.
No, they're totally horny to kill some leftists.
Exactly.
And people of color.
This is an ideological fight. Not one of those people show up. I mean, where were those same people when armed militia went and stormed their state house? Why weren't they protecting people when the National Guard wasn't mobilized? Of course not. That's absurd. But this is the story they're going to tell. And this is the story that Ben Shapiro is spreading. I don't know if it's to boomers or to whomever on Facebook, but this is the way they interpret these events. Continue.
And looting. In fact, the single best example of how violence in communities rises when you remove law enforcement. That's what's been happening in these high crime areas. A lot of people ask, why is there this great differential in murder rates in between blacks and blacks and between whites and whites, for example? The murder rate in the black community is about 9 times higher, somewhere between 7 and 9 times higher than in the white community has been for generations at this point. Why is that? Well, the original reason, Thomas Sowell points out, is because white communities basically said to black communities, you're on your own. We're not going to give you police resources. And thus, what you ended up with is what you have everywhere, where there is no centralized authority that ensures law and order and support for property rights. What you end up with is people gathering to defend themselves and defend their properties and property of their friends against other human beings. Where the mob rules, chaos reigns, as I pointed out yesterday. Well, the mob ruled in Wisconsin, and chaos reigns in Wisconsin. And so it is a perfectly predictable response that you're going to get people who, in vigilante fashion, decide that they're going to go out and protect the private property of other people. Now, should they be doing that without training? No. Should a 17-year-old be out there? No. That does not mean that the person who committed the shooting was a quote-unquote white supremacist. Okay, that was the rumor that started floating around yesterday. There's not one iota of evidence that Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist at this point.
Pause it for
not
1 second. Pause it for 1 second.
Iota,
are we to believe, and I guess that's the end of it, are we to believe that this guy has been training with guns for years for the opportunity to protect a business that he has no idea what they are? That's what he's been doing all these years. There's no ideology. There's no ideology involved in this. It's all just about, hey, look, Pa, they're coming in for the AP, grocery store, and I got to get out there. I'm going to grab my AR-15. Come on, Lassie, let's go and save the general store. No, that's absurd. That's absurd. There isn't a single individual who goes out there with a gun whose primary directive, primary incentive is to protect other people's businesses. Give me an effing break. You could have a whole list of things that they're doing. They want to fight the leftists. They want to fight the black people. They want to dress up like they're, Rambo. They want to shoot their guns at other people and feel like it's validated, on and on and on. And the actual desire to protect these strangers' businesses is somewhere down, like it's out of frame in terms of where on the list this is. Yeah. This is a joke. Just go out there. If you're going to defend this, if Ben Shapiro is going to defend this, you just say, like, look, this is a race war, and the white guys are going to get out there with their guns, and they're going to fight anybody who has a problem with this. And that's that. And that's inevitable to happen. I mean, to some extent, there is a certain inevitability because guys like Ben Shapiro have been priming their audience for years. Just go back to the shooter he inspired up in Canada, who shot up, I think he thought that he was shooting Muslims. I mean, Ben Shapiro has been trafficking in this stuff for ages. And he has, he's playing this game where it's like, oh, I'm just an observer. I'm not promoting this notion that Western civilization is under threat.
Yeah, the Alexander Bissonnette of the Quebec City mosque shooting. Yeah, go look at, I think Vic Berger did a helpful edit of that.
Yes. And so, I mean, the idea that this is about, it's inevitable that people are going to come out and protect property when the governor's, no. Where's the reports of a store owner shooting somebody? In that instance, that to me is maybe inevitable. I'm not saying it's good, but the idea that it's inevitable that a 17-year-old has been trained in paramilitary stuff is going to go out there, just been waiting for property in Kenosha to be under threat. Are you serious?
Yeah. I do think that private property plays a role at the base of all of this stuff and all of these problems. But by the time it makes its way to the brain of somebody like Rittenhouse, the shooter, it has been transmogrified and mystified via many layers of culture war stuff that it is not the primary driver anymore. I would posit. I do think it plays a role in terms of the purpose that the police serve in upholding, private property, white supremacy, capitalism, and all that shit that I'm always saying is connected.
Right. Well, there's no doubt that the government and the police, by extension, are there to protect property rights. Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
He's on the side of the police, and the police are on his side too.
Oh, well, that's true. But I think from their perspective, it's cultural, right? Like, I mean, I think from their perspective, it's completely cultural. They don't care about the property rights. Neither one of them own that property. They don't care about it. They're not worried that the property rights system is about to fall. They want to take the opportunity to go into battle and have this sort of like just this like fig leaf of we're trying to maintain order. I mean, give me a break. I want to see what happens when you send in the National Guard and shut it down. What does that mean? You're going to start shooting people? I mean, it is, it's just a game. It's a game that they're playing. I'm sorry, 17-year-old is not sitting out there going, look, we have to maintain private property rights. And if the government isn't, I'm going to travel miles and miles to go and make sure that property rights is okay. I mean, is he at the courthouse too? Making sure, like, is he like vigilantly looking at like all civil actions? Like, is he going, oh, there's a copyright infringement case. I've got to stand guard and make sure that happens. Give me a break.
No, I do not think that he knows what he's doing in the wide angle. I don't think he's like, well, I uphold white supremacy, but also capitalism. Therefore, I'm defending private property.
Yeah, my guess is his defense of private property. And I will say this too, Thomas Sowell, the idea that yes, it is the case that the actual solving of crimes in areas of with high concentration of African American neighborhoods is incredibly disproportionately, like they fail. A lot of crimes go unsolved. The idea that this is the origin story, that this is what leads to crime in some neighborhoods where a lot of people are living in poverty is absurd. Mm-hmm. It's absurd.
Yeah. There's some good damning stats in the Alex Vitale book as well. Like the cops almost never stop a crime in progress. And they have been historically very dismissive of victims of crimes if they are not straight white men.
Well, the problem is they don't solve any crimes. It's never a matter of stopping one in progress. They don't solve them in these neighborhoods.
Yeah, the clearance rate for stuff like murder is very low.